When I walked through the door, my wife was excited. She ran up to me and gave me a big kiss as a greeting, then turned to go to the kitchen to finish cooking dinner. "I made your favorite dinner tonight. I have some important news, and I thought we could celebrate it." "That's great, dear," I replied. "I also have some important news. Maybe we can have a double celebration." It was Friday evening, and the work week was over. While she was finishing up in the kitchen, I went to the bedroom to take a shower and change into casual clothes. Since I didn't have to work tomorrow, I was looking forward to a long night of making love with my wife. I had important news that I was sure would excite her very much. I was dizzy with anticipation of hearing her news and then sharing mine. My name is Larry Dawes. My wife's name is Sheila. We have been married for 7 years, and we are both 30 years old. I am 188 centimeters tall and weigh 95 kilograms, give or take a kilo or two depending on the day, and I am in pretty good shape. While I'm not a heartthrob, I've been told more than once that I look above average. I've also been told that I'm a bit above average in size, if you catch my drift. Sheila is 168 centimeters tall and weighs around 50 kilograms. She is also in very good shape. We both work out at the gym. She has long blonde hair, brown eyes, and an amazing figure. I was almost certain I knew what her news was. Recently, we started trying to expand our family. She stopped taking birth control pills a few months ago, and since then we've been having sex like rabbits. Don't get me wrong, we weren't celibate before that. On average, we had sex about 3 times a week after our first year of living together. Before that, it was nearly every night. Since she stopped taking the pills, we've been having sex more frequently again. The only times it was postponed were the days when I had to go out of town. I didn't travel much for work. Usually, I was in my office by 7 a.m. and left work at 5 p.m. I am a mechanical engineer. My schedule only changes when I need to attend a conference or seminar, which happens about once a quarter. A couple of months ago, I was promoted to engineering manager, so I supervise 5 junior engineers, 3 technical specialists, and a couple of secretaries. I also have my own personal secretary. Sheila works as a paralegal in a small law firm in the city. She is one of 3 paralegals in an office with 5 attorneys. Her schedule is almost as regular as mine. The only change is when issues arise, and she needs to work a bit later in the evening. After showering and changing, I arrived in the kitchen just as Sheila was setting the table. She had gone all out tonight. I suspected she had taken the afternoon off to prepare for the evening. She made chicken scallopini, a wonderful Caesar salad, and garlic bread. She even made tiramisu for dessert. She had uncorked a couple of bottles of really good Merlot. Her news was obviously something impressive. I was really looking forward to our conversation tonight. I also noticed she had dressed up for the occasion. She was wearing one of her shortest, sexiest dresses with a deep neckline. Cleavage and legs on display. It looked like she was also anticipating a wild and passionate night. After dinner and dessert, I helped clear the table and tidy up the kitchen. We filled our glasses with wine and retired to the living room to share our good news with each other. We sat on the couch, sipping our wine and, as usual, discussing who would go first. She was so happy that I wondered how she had managed to hold back for so long. Honestly, I expected it to just burst out spontaneously. "We did it, honey. I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby," she practically shouted. "That's amazing," I exclaimed. Seeing my joy at the news, she threw herself into my arms and kissed me passionately. We kissed deeply and held each other, letting the joy overwhelm us. Finally, she pulled back and asked what my news was. I was almost as excited about my news as she was about hers. With a broad smile and a look of excitement, I shared my joyful news with her. My secretary, Josetta, is also pregnant. Since she's unmarried and doesn't want to raise the child alone, we've decided that she'll simply give her baby to us to raise. It will be like they are twins. Since you and Josetta will be giving birth around the same time, they will be twins in every way except biologically. Since I'm the father, there won't be any custody issues, especially as she's more than willing to sign over custody to me. All she wants is to be the child's favorite aunt. We'll probably need to explain this to the child when they're old enough to understand, but that shouldn't be a problem. I joyfully explained this to my wife. Oddly, I noticed a rather serious lack of happiness on her face at this news. In fact, she seemed angry. She had just told me that our family was going to grow, and I had just told her that it would double in size. I assumed her happiness would double with my news. Instead, it seemed that her happiness not only evaporated but turned into extreme hostility. I was genuinely stunned. The expression of intense tension on her face made me pause before telling the rest of my news. I decided she needed to know, and perhaps it would turn her from upset back to happy. Her first ultrasound also showed that she's having twins. Although it's too early to determine the sex, there's a good chance that at least one of them is a girl. Just think, you could have the little girl you've always dreamed of, and I could have a little boy. Whoever you give birth to will be a bonus. We'll immediately have the big family you've always wanted. I didn't understand what was happening. Instead of being delighted by this news, she seemed to get even angrier. The explosion didn't take long. Compared to this, Hiroshima looked like a failed firecracker. You fucking bastard. You cheated on me with that office bitch? What kind of idiotic thoughts go through your head if you think I would ever think of raising that bitch's illegitimate children? Are you out of your mind? Everything went downhill. For the next half hour, she screamed every insult ever conceived at me. I think she even managed to create a few new ones. This was nowhere near how I had imagined it. I began to realize that my night of passionate lovemaking was not going to happen. And yet, that didn't stop me. Sweetie, how about we move to the bedroom and celebrate our good news together? I'm sure that after a night of passionate lovemaking, we'll have a much clearer understanding of what our life will be like with 3 new children added to our loving family. I was surprised that she not only fiercely rejected me but also had the audacity to try to kick me out of my own bed. Well, if she didn't want to sleep with me, she could find another bed to sleep in. Eventually, in a fit of rage, she grabbed some pillows and stormed off to the spare bedroom. Honestly, I was baffled by her attitude. Since I felt I hadn't done anything wrong, I turned over and slept soundly through the night. The next morning, I unsuccessfully tried to lure my wife back to our bed for some lovemaking. She was irrationally angry with me. I just couldn't understand her problem. Seeing that she was being unreasonable, I decided to make the most of the nice day and went to play golf. It was a phenomenal day. I ended up having a threesome with one guy's wife and her sister. We had a great time. And then, I made a bet with my wife's single sister and I won. I managed to get 2 shots in. 3 hours after the round ended, I left her house having satisfied both her and my needs. I was surprised when I returned home to find that my garage door opener wasn't working. This was strange. I turned off the engine and walked to the front door. Oddly, I saw several suitcases stacked on the front porch. Not knowing what they were, I ignored them. When I grabbed the door handle, I found that the front door was locked. That wasn't too surprising. What was strange was that my key didn't fit the locks. Looking more closely at the locks, I noticed they seemed brand new. Strange, Sheila had never mentioned needing new locks on the doors. In any case, I was hot and tired and needed to get into the house, take a shower, and change clothes. Being a practical person, I simply took a saw from the car and cut around the door handle and deadbolt. Once the handle and deadbolt were separated from the rest of the door, it swung open freely. I made a note to go to Lowe's and buy a new front door. When I entered the house, Sheila began another tirade. She said something about me moving out and that my clothes were packed in the suitcases outside. Hearing this, I went out and brought the suitcases back to my bedroom. Opening the suitcases, I indeed saw that all my clothes were in them. It took me a few minutes to put everything back in the proper drawers and closets. While she continued ranting, I undressed and turned on the shower. Her ranting intensified a bit when she noticed the scent and moisture from Keisha on me. Seriously? I didn't understand her problem. Sure, I slept with Keisha, but it was just a one-time thing. A one-day encounter. It was just sex. I barely knew her. I invited Sheila to join me in the shower, but she firmly rejected my offer. She apparently had some psychological issues that might need addressing. I might try to bring this up later tonight and suggest some counseling. After a pleasant shower, I went to the bedroom to change. To my surprise, I found Sheila in the process of packing all her clothes into the recently emptied suitcases. When I asked her simply what she was doing, she exclaimed that since I refused to move out, she would. Apparently, while I was in the shower, she had called her sister and arranged to stay with her. My assumption that her pregnancy had thrown her hormones out of balance, causing her to react strangely, was met with extreme anger. I was sure this was the real reason for her odd behavior. I believed that once she had the baby and when my twins from my secretary were home, she would be a great mother to all 3 children. Honestly, I was baffled by her reaction. An hour later, she left. A couple of days later, I moved Josetta into my house. She would need some support during her pregnancy, and since Sheila was no longer around, it seemed like the right thing to do. After all, the twins were mine. Sheila should have had no issue understanding the lack of sex with her husband. I even had Keisha over a few times. Usually, it was one-on-one, but occasionally there was a threesome with Josetta and Keisha. It turned out that both Josetta and Keisha were bisexual. A week after Sheila left, I was served with divorce papers. She demanded the house, 18 years of alimony, 90% of our savings and investments, and $1,500 a month in child support. In short, she was in full compliance with the infidelity clause in our prenuptial agreement. We included it as a pretty severe punishment for cheating. Yes, I knew about it. Yes, I slept with Gisette and Keisha. Yes, all of you listening to this probably think I'm a bastard and deserve to be burned. Go ahead, laugh all you want. 3 months later, what the hell? That was my wife, Sheila. It was our first meeting with the lawyers. We were in her attorney's office discussing our divorce. She intended to punish me for infidelity. I had to admit that she had the perfect tool for this and plenty of evidence. Our prenup was written in such a way that infidelity would be painful, very painful. The fact that I had impregnated my secretary and made no secret of the fact that I had slept with Keisha also gave her the perfect weapon for severe punishment. There was only one small problem. Are you really sure you want to go down this path, Sheila? You cheated on me? Your secretary got you pregnant and you had the nerve to think I'd want to raise that thing's children. Okay, Sheila. Right here and now I'm making a one-time offer. We call off the divorce, get back together and raise all 3 children as our own. We will forget the past and come back to each other. Our 3 children will belong to us alone. Yes, Gisette will be a favorite aunt to the twins, but nothing more. You will be a loving mother to all 3 and I will be a loving father. Maybe we'll even have more children. It's your choice. Yes or no. I made my offer. Fuck you. There's no way I'm raising your illegitimate children with that creep. I looked at my lawyer and nodded. She responded to my nod. Unfortunately, my wife didn't hire the most vicious, ruthless, hungry and vicious shark on the planet. Fortunately, I did. Now you're probably thinking I'm a bastard for cheating on my wife. I can see your saliva flowing at the thought of me burning to ashes. Hold on to your chairs. My attorney opened her briefcase with a smile that reminded me of a barracuda ready to fly into a rage. Since your client rejected my client's generous offer, here's our new offer, she said, sliding the papers across the table. It took Sheila and her lawyer a few minutes to read and understand the document. That was when Sheila had the aforementioned outburst of anger. As Sheila's expression changed from arrogant to panicked, I swear, Lilith, my lawyer, licked her lips and swallowed. Yes, she was truly ruthless. Sheila's lawyer turned to face her. His expression was one of complete panic. DNA test? Sheila stammered. Of course. Another nod from Lilith, and she pulled out an audio recorder. Placing it on the table, she pressed the button. So, how will you ensure it's my child and not his? The voice on the recording belonged to Jason West, one of the attorneys at the firm where Sheila worked. No problem, Sheila responded. I always use a diaphragm when I have sex with him. Besides, you look enough like my husband that he'll never know he's raising your child. Good. Let him raise my child properly. I'm not going to pay for any kids or deal with them. I really like the idea of having a child to eventually pass my legacy to, but that should be after they grow up. When the child turns 18, we can reveal who the real father is. That way, I won't have to pay a penny for raising them. Trust me. Larry will never know until we tell him ourselves in 18 years. By then, Larry and I will have had several more children together, and he won't be able to do anything about it without looking completely foolish. So, you're sure your husband won't find out about us? We've been having an affair for the last 3 years, and he has no idea. You look so much like him that any child we have will resemble him closely enough, and he'll never suspect it's not his. Everything will be fine. Sheila's expression as the recording played was priceless. Then Lilith issued the demand for a DNA test of her fetus. She also handed over a petition for child support from Jason West. I was requesting $2,000 a month. He was a fairly successful lawyer. So, since your client has rejected the last offer, here is the new proposal. This, of course, will require a subsequent agreement signed by both parties. The divorce will be halted, and the couple will remain married until the youngest child finishes high school. That is the minimum. If they mutually decide to stay married after that, they are free to do so. The subsequent agreement will include the conditions of the prenuptial contract, but with some changes. First, the marriage will become an open marriage, where my client can have sex with other women as long as he informs his wife before the date. The wife is also allowed to have sex with other partners under the same conditions. I watched as Sheila's face turned completely white. She was utterly shocked that her affair had been exposed. Lilith put on her shark-like smile and continued. If your client rejects this offer, we are fully prepared to enforce the prenuptial agreement on our side. Her affair began 3 years before my client's affair. In fact, he only started his affair after thoroughly documenting his wife's infidelity and her desire to have a child with another man. If she wants to proceed with the divorce, she should be prepared to end up homeless and penniless, with graphic video recordings of her sexual activities with another man shared with all her friends and relatives. We are fully prepared to go for total destruction. She looked at me and nodded for me to continue. Sheila, you wanted me to raise another man's child. While the child inside you is an innocent victim of your betrayal, I will not bear financial responsibility for him. What I am willing to do is accept the child into our home as a stepson, provided his father assumes financial responsibility. He will pay monthly support for his child, cover medical insurance, medical bills, and education costs. Although I seriously doubt he will want to visit the child, he will have that option. He will also pay for the child's college education. In all other respects, I will be a father to the child as if he were my own. This is the price for his actions. He said he didn't want to take responsibility for the child, but that's exactly what he will get. Your price for betrayal will be raising my children as your own. They will be your children in every way except biologically. The only people who will know they are not biologically yours are the people in this room and Josetta. You thought it would be amusing for me to raise another man's child? Well, now you can laugh while raising another woman's children. You will also be happy to see Josetta in our home whenever she wants to visit the children. This is your penance. You dare try to divorce me over sex with another woman when you had a years-long affair with another man? How hypocritical of you. My affair started only after I found out about your betrayal. I heard you planning to have a child with another man. 18.5 years later, so you're saying that Aunt Josie is really... Audrey stammered, trailing off. But what about Uncle Dan? Andy asked. Yes, Josetta had twins. Audrey was born a minute before Andy. Lenny, Sheila's son, arrived 3 days earlier. There were quite a few surprised faces when we introduced the triplets to all our friends and family. Eventually, everyone accepted it. There were a few curious comments about where Audrey and Andy's red hair came from. Darn recessive genes. No, Uncle Dan came later. Your Aunt Josetta got pregnant when she was single, and she thought it would be better for you two to be in a family. We were close friends, and I agreed to adopt you both because, at the time, she was unable to raise you as a single parent. By the time she met and married Uncle Dan, it would have caused too much heartache to change anything. Now that you know the truth, you need to understand that your mom and I truly love you as our own children. Nothing has changed in that regard. Also, keep in mind that your biological mother has her own family. You will always hold a special place in their hearts, but it doesn't change the fact that we are all family here, I concluded. They were smart kids. They understood. Did we really need to tell them? Maybe, maybe not. There are strong arguments on both sides. We decided they should know and we told them. We also told Lenny that I wasn't his biological father. That was a bit different. He never met that jerk. That jerk tried to contest the paternity claim, but DNA is DNA. He tried not to pay, but judges get a bit irritated when you try to ignore their rulings. Judges also have what are called sheriff's deputies who can visit people at their homes and offices. Oh, all that stuff about an open marriage? I hooked up with Keisha a couple more times, and Josetta and I continued our fling for about a year before she met Dan. As for Sheila, I'm pretty sure she never indulged her desires. Nevertheless, I kept a close eye on her. After Josetta and I ended our affair, I didn't engage in any more extramarital activities. I decided that Sheila had learned her lesson, but I would have started again if I found out she was having another affair. As far as I could tell, she didn't, and I watched pretty closely. Besides, she started trying to have sex with me until I was exhausted to make sure I didn't need anyone but her. That worked both ways. Jason West disappeared shortly after Larry's 18th birthday, after he set up an account to fund Lenny's college. We offered to visit him, but Jason declined. There were rumors that he moved to the East Coast. More credible rumors suggested he was now about 5 miles east of the coast. Of course, that rumor was known only to a select few. Yes, I was a patient man when it came to settling scores. He couldn't miss those child support and college fund payments. As for Sheila and me, what can I say? It's been 19 years since our little problem. I did my due diligence and found nothing. She truly became a good wife and mother. I'm considering retiring early once the kids leave home. Some might say I'm weak for taking her back. Yes, I could have burned her to the ground, but what would that have given me? Who knows, maybe Josetta and I could have been together. It's a moot point. I had no problem raising another man's child. Sure, I was his father, but I looked at it differently. Jason paid for his upbringing. I took the opportunity to make sure the child was raised correctly and didn't become another jerk, and I also made my wife raise another woman's children. It was a constant reminder to her that I had slept with another woman and got her pregnant. She also knew that while her lover had to pay for his child, she was paying for Josetta's children. Staying with Sheila ensured that our 3 children grew up in a loving home with both parents. That is far more important than what anyone else thinks of me.
Thank you for listening until the end.